Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, agents. I'm Matty Carl, and welcome to a Division news break. And this is going to be a special day because it's going to be more freeform. There's also going to be a Let's Talk in just a minute about RNG, but I want to cover a lot of the news first up front. That way you guys can get it out of the way. If you haven't seen it, the Last Stand trailer was released today, and it's kind of a mixed bag of PvP is really what it looks like. And what you can see from the trailer is a bunch of people, basically red team versus blue team, how original, and people fortifying a point, and that's pretty much it. And the other side of it that I heard is that they're going to release a new survival mode that is kind of like Hunger Games, and so it's really, that's pretty much survival PvP what it is now. So I mean, if you go out there, maybe it'll just be solo. That would be actually pretty awesome. If it was just solo, you could only join by yourself. If that was the case, then they've actually been listening to the people and what the people have been saying. But for that most part, I am looking forward to seeing what they're going to release from Last Stand. However, it does look like it's going to be very much in line with what they did with the survival update. Not much in the way of content in terms of story modes or stuff like that, but more in terms of game modes and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people are upset because that is what people don't want. They actually want game content. They don't want, another mode. They want content. They want to finish the story. They want to find out what happened to Aaron Keener. And then there's the other side where people are actually happy with the content. They're going to, basically find out, how, they want to see what they can do. And if it is the way I think it is, then it's going to be very much like survival, where you have to hunt around for weapons and stuff like that. You're not going to have them starting off. You might have a pistol starting off, but you're going to have to hunt around for the weapons and stuff like that. Who knows? January 19th is when they said that they are going, which is tomorrow. If you're watching this right now, it is tomorrow. If not, if you're watching this later, it could be today. So you want to tune in for that. State of the Game, I believe, is tonight, I think. That they're talking about doing that. So I think that's going to be tonight. So that's pretty cool. I do enjoy that. There is definitely a lot of new content and a lot of news coming out about the Division, about the Last Stand. No release date, really. I'm still anticipating that it's going to be the last week in January. The new 1.6 PTS, I heard, is going to be sometime next week. And then probably, actually early February, probably first week in February or second week in February, they're going to want to test that out, make sure that all the bugs are there. And so we're basically looking, and that's why the ETF was focused on PvP, is because the Last Stand is very much PvP driven. So from the standpoint of a new survival mode where it's solo players against each other in sort of a Hunger Games style matchup, and a team versus team deathmatch is what it looked like, where you have to capture points and fortify them and do that stuff. That's really what it looks like. I have no idea what it has to do with the Last Stand, but let's just say it is. So that's really what I wanted to go ahead and break on the news today. People are putting out videos saying leaked content. There's no leaked content unless you're actually being leaked the content by Ubisoft directly. There's nobody out there had this yesterday, really. I mean, I saw a video out there that was like, hey, here's some leaked content, and then they released it today. So unless you're being leaked content from Massive or Ubisoft, it's not really leaked content. It's just, it is the news. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to our Let's Talk about RNG, because this is very important, because this needs to be fixed in 1.6 most of all. Now, I gotta say this before I continue on. I make content for everybody, and I tell the truth where it needs to be. I entertain where it needs to be. I cannot make videos that please everyone and have everyone be happy with the content. No one agrees with me 100% of the time. I am sure that there will be plenty of people that disagree with my topic today, although I will be hard-pressed today to actually find someone. And so today we're going to talk about the loot rolls and the RNG behind them that is ruining the game. And I've talked to a lot of people, especially people that have come to my channel and looked at the farming videos of Warrengate, and that's really what brought this to light, is Warrengate, because people were getting hundreds, if not some people probably got thousands of items and probably only kept a small percentage of those items because of how bad they rolled. Now, I have had a lot of controversial videos about rogues ruining the game or something else that's ruining the game, but no, originally it was rogues. Let's just face it. Early on, rogues ruined the game for everyone, and that was most of why numbers of people dropped out of the game, is because you were forced into the DZ and you had to go fight rogues, and people were just tired of it. And because we no longer are being forced in the DZ, people have come back. But is that good enough? Maybe it is. But after my talk tonight, it might be a little bit disheartening for some of you to hear about RNG and the loot rolls. Now, before I move on, I do need to say this again. The Division in its current state is probably, in my opinion, at the best it's ever been since 1.1 and the introduction of gear sets. I think that it's probably somewhere in there. There are several metas in the DZ. People can hunt in the LZ, and we are seeing a return of glitches for loot. We also see Massive fixing these issues so fast that we wonder why they have a hard time fixing something as simple as lag. But I guess since lag isn't producing loads of loot, it's going to be a while before we see a fix on that. So at this point, I'm starting to see the comments comment salty AF. So let's talk loot rolls. Let's talk and get started. Let's just go ahead, and we're going to use the most coveted item in the game right now as an example. And that's Lorraine Barrett's chest piece, because that seems to be, outside of the PvP and PvE dark zones, the only thing that people want in the game. Because maybe the Joe Farrow mask possibly, but the chest piece is by far the most coveted due to its pretty significant perks. Now, the drop rate on this is low. I mean, it's real low. That I've run Lexington 100, 200 times, and I've opened up more than 250 proficiency caches. I haven't even seen a single named item, leading me to believe that they have probably nerfed the field caches in the last week due to the loot exploit, but honestly, it's hard to say. There's nothing in the patch notes or anything like that to suggest that, so it's just a conspiracy at this point. However, those that have gotten it, the majority have said that they've got something akin to a garbage roll, making it damn near worthless to use, whether it had electronics and no armor, or another combination that just makes you want to gouge your eyes out, and thinking that you would get a superior roll on a chest piece is just absolutely absurd, and we're going to tell you why. So let's take a look and see exactly what are the odds of you getting a nicely rolled Lorraine Barrett's chest piece. So the main stat roll on a high-end 256 item can be anywhere between 1,114 and 1,272. So there is right there, just saying, you have a 1 in 114 chance of getting just one of those. And that's at the 1%, like the 1% drop rate. And so out of the 1%, you have a 1 in 114 chance of getting an individual roll. So if you're looking at getting, a 1250 and above, you have, basically a 22 out of 114% chance of getting that, and you have a 78% or 78 in 114 chance of getting garbage. That's going to be lower. Now, if we separate those into whether you want firearms, whether you want stamina, or whether you want electronics, you're going to multiply that by 3, because that's basically what the chances are. And I have a small sneaking suspicion that the electronics is going to be a more popular role. But this is where you can see RNG break down. The fact that you have a variation of 114 points just for one, and then multiply that by 3 because you're going to have firearms, stamina, and electronics, that's 300, 1 in 300 chance of getting, just one of those, of it being, some sort of role that you'd actually want. And it's any wonder that anyone has any good gear at all, factoring in the other stats like armor, and armor itself varies wildly. Just native armor, favorable major attributes, minor attributes, that one, the ones that people may care about, you might not care about minor attributes. It's not that huge to do. I'd rather have a good roll on it than good minor attributes. But you're looking at one of the biggest RNG databases in any game out there right now. WoW have more forgiving rolls on their equipment drops. And I mean, breaking it down by just a native armor and a base stat is going to give people a headache. For each of those 114 stat attributes you could potentially get, you have a varying degree of armor that gives you a 1 out of 299 potential armor rolls for every 1 out of 114 stat rolls. Seriously, that is insane. That's somewhere in the realm of 34,000 different combinations of whatever you could get. 34,000. That's a huge number. I know that those aren't, that they don't seem huge numbers but that's a pretty huge number. So if you had 34,000 times that a chest piece dropped, you probably would get something, very similar to a god roll on it. And in fact, I would say your chance of getting a max roll for stats and armor is literally 1 out of, every 40,000 drops. This is the reason why the loot cave, when loot caves open up, people dive right in and get to work mining away. I can show you countless videos of me opening loot caches and throwing away 99% of the gear because it's not worth its trash roll. And I keep gear that rolls in the main stats above 1250, whether or not it's electronics or not, or stamina or firearms. I keep the gear that rolls above 1250 because you never know when you're going to need those gear pieces. And I have other factors in keeping it, whether it has a high armor roll and low stats. If I can re-roll it on something, then I'll go ahead and do that and make it better. But it's really, you got to throw away the trash route. And I'm actually going to go ahead and post a whether or not I saw this on Reddit, and big props to the guy who actually did this. Let me go ahead and give him big props because it's probably one of the most complete armor gear, and it looks like his name is Kit M37. Mr. Sir Snipeslot is his gamer tag, but it looks like, he made basically a tool that you can use to go ahead and figure out whether or not you should keep gear. And that's actually, and I'm going to link it down below so that you guys can see it. It's an amazing tool, and I think that everybody should be using this because it's going to help you figure out whether or not you should keep the gear. It doesn't go into the fact of whether or not it's good enough to go ahead and keep for, re-rolling or something like that. But basically, if it's in the 80th percentile, this tool is saying that you should keep it. Mine is a little bit higher. I'm looking at like 85 to 90 percentile when I'm keeping my stuff, just because I have so much stuff. And with 150 slots, that's actually not even enough. This is why people want more slots in their stash, is because 150 items, that's huge. Like, that's not huge at all. Like, that's with the amount of rolls that you could possibly get and with the amount of loot that's dropping right now. That's all they did. Like, they didn't actually increase the loot drop. I mean, yes, they did increase the loot drop, but they increased the amount of garbage that you can get. So instead of actually increasing the amount of good rolls that you could get, they just increased the amount of lower rolls. So I bet there's some sort of algorithm out there that says that you could probably get, a 70% chance of dropping a green that has armor that's not very good. And so there's a lot of stuff out there. And, it's pretty amazing to me that something like this, like the Warrengate power plant, like that brings to light. So yeah, 1 out of approximately 34,000 drops would have a max armor and max stat. Of course, that could be said the same in minimum rolls as well, but who knows if all the numbers are actually in the cycle. I don't know. They could have just set numbers, but whether it's a true max roll, is even possible. Is there a true max roll for armor and stats? Could that be possible? Code is, it's a pretty tricky thing, and it's possible that they have code written in that if one stat's maxed, nothing else could be maxed. And so it could have a max stat and low armor, and that's in the code. And so it could say something to the effect that if stats are maxed, make armor low, and it's in the code somewhere, because, oh no, we wouldn't want anyone out there getting an advantage in gear that would actually go ahead and benefit them. That would be horrible. So that small sampling and explanation is really why RNG is by far the worst thing in this game. Rogues are classy gentlemen compared to RNG, and all of the factors that go into that. I salute rogues, and I feel like the douchebag of the week should be RNG, because nothing is worse than anybody running. I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Andrew Kapler, because that dude has ran the Lexington thing 350 plus times. It's probably 400 or 500 now. And at last I talked to him, or he left a message, he hadn't even gotten a Lorraine Barrett's chest piece. And that is almost statistically impossible to, at least 1 out of every 100 times you should be getting it. But, statistics are a pain in the ass. And I've actually heard that the drop rate is actually lower than 1%. I've heard it's actually something like 0.01%. 10% or something like that. And I've seen like people who get like 500 pairs of gloves. And I've heard that it's also time-based. It could be time-based. It could be something, who knows at this point what the algorithm is for this stuff. And so it's really, I know that we all have problems with RNG, and it's really, even since the very beginning of the game, it's why people have used glitches. It's why, just tighten things up, like make it, start consolidating some of these bullshit like stats. Like, you don't need a disruption percentage, a burn percentage, like, and then you will go ahead and just lump them all together and call it exotic damage resilience. Like, really, like, what is the purpose of all of these stats? Like, you couldn't find enough stats to go ahead and put on it? Like, it just absolutely makes no sense why there's so many stats, why there's such a huge range of numbers. Like, just make it more consolidated. I would actually be in favor of getting less loot if the numbers weren't trash. Like, I would be happy to get one piece of gear, like, from, just running through Lexington. I would be happy for just one piece of gear dropping at the end if it was actually going to be useful. And that's the complaint. And it's been the complaint for so long. And everybody was kind of duped because 1.3, the gear wasn't dropping. And then they're like, oh yeah, we'll just bump that up to in 1.4. And everybody came back and the gear was plentiful. And everybody's like, oh yeah, look at all this gear. But nobody took the time to go, oh wait, it's still the same useless crap. It's just I'm getting more of it now. And it's not, because before 1.3 you were getting trash rolls, but at least the trash rolls were few and far between, so everybody wanted more, and now you're getting more, and so it's not worth it. So leave a comment down below if you disagree with me. I want to hear why you disagree with me, why RNG is garbage. I've heard from a lot of people that the Warren Gate power plant exploit really brought out the full effect of how garbage the RNG stuff is in this game. And it's spectacular, because when something in the vendor pops up that's really great, everybody's on it, everybody goes and buys it. When something is just absolutely the god roll, like, people are excited. And how about just having that excitement every single time? I mean, in WoW, you didn't get very much loot. Like, it wasn't like the Lootapalooza. Destiny's the same way. There is a small faction of what it is in Destiny that you get. There's not this wide, huge, varied rolls on everything. There's set numbers, there's good items, and yes, there are bad rolls on items in Destiny as well, but those are fewer and far between, and they have less of an impact on the game. The gear that you have has a huge impact on your survivability, your damage, all of that stuff. It has a huge impact in this game, especially in the Dark Zone, especially in PvP, and that's why people are so upset as to why RNG is such a trash roll first type of loot system, and it needs to be changed. I would be happy with less loot dropping, like at the 1.3 rate, than getting all of this trash loot filling up my bag, not understanding which ones I should keep. Get rid of some of these perks that nobody cares about. Like, there are a lot of perks that nobody absolutely needs in the game. 0.01% when you kill someone to your signature skill ability. Nobody cares. That's nobody's gonna do that. Like, I mean, it doesn't extend it to a point where it's useful. There's 20-second timers where they increase your signature skill ability by 20 seconds or something. That's a good roll. Like, that's good. Like, 20 seconds extension, and then it doesn't stack, or whatever it is. But I know that the point is that you need garbage, you need that, but the problem really stems from there's no balance in the RNG in this game. And if you don't know what RNG is, let me just explain really quick. It's called random number generator, and that stuff is, people assume that everything when it drops is randomly generated at that time. And sure, it's very possible they probably have a formula in there, and it could be tied to time, it could be tied to something else, but really it's so random and so ridiculous at times that it should be called ridiculous number generator. So anyways, that's my time. Thank you so much. I know I'm gonna get a ton of, Monte Carlo, you're salty, you're bringing back salt again. It has nothing to do with that. I am perfectly fine with the state of the game the way it is. I'm very happy with the way the game is. RNG is probably the biggest problem there's a very minor rogue problem, and some of that's already solved in when you get a good group of people who aren't rogue in the DZ and stuff like that. But it's really, the Division is at one of the high points of its existence, really, in the current state. So it has nothing to do with Salt. This is just a conversational topic that I'm bringing to you based on some of the feedback that I've heard in previous videos. So anyways, thank you all for watching. Drop a like on it if you agree with RNG. If you don't, well, that's your opinion. Leave it down in the comment. I'd love to hear from you as to why you think RNG is the greatest thing since sliced bread in this game. And subscribe for more content like this. I'm trying to get you guys quality content, but some of it takes a lot of research to get done. So some of these more in-depth, longer videos are, this one's over 20 minutes at this point. So some of these are going to be, longer, and some of them are going to be shorter. I'm not interested in making, I've beaten, the dead horse on PvP. There's nothing I need to do there. You guys know my opinions on PvP. Would you PvP in Final Fantasy? That just sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And that's kind of where I think PvP is in this game. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. For all of us here at the Division News Break and Division Let's Talk, I'm Mounty Carl, and we'll see you next time in the Dark Zone and Survival or whatever else is standing, like The Last Stand. Agent out.